So now we're up to part 3, and there are 3 questions which make up part 3, numbers 11 and 20 and 21, I believe. So let's go through these questions one by one, and let's see what's going on here. Listen, I preach this all the time, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I know that you guys are involved in things. School play is a biggie now. You might be involved in wrestling, basketball, things going on at home. But you got to find a way. You just have to dedicate some time to being successful here. If you take all of your time and dedicate it to any one of those things, then other things suffer. And if they suffer, so do you. Number 11, I thought was a very difficult question. But number 20, we did this question so many times. And 21, we didn't do as many times, but it's not a hard question. And for the most part, we did well on 21. So if you got 11 wrong, there's plenty of room for forgiveness. If you got number 20 wrong, no, you should have gotten 20 right. We've been over it enough. It shows that you didn't prepare well enough. All right, so number 11, what are the nature of the roots? And we said that the nature of the roots, what we're talking about is the character of the roots. And we said that that can all be determined by a thing we call a discriminant. Now, the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. It's the part of the quadratic formula. If I come over here and I write the whole quadratic formula, negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. It's the part of the quadratic formula from here to here to here to here that determines what the character or the nature of the roots is going to be like. Are they going to be, choice A, real and unequal, choice B, irrational, unequal, C, imaginary, D, real or equal? Now, when I graded the tests, so many kids who got this wrong put choices A and B. And that's got to be because those were the answers on the pretest. It's like you didn't even learn anything. You have to know why. It's not enough to regurgitate answers. The A, the B, and the C, and I think this was pretty clear on your papers that you understood this. The A is in front of the x squared, the B is in front of x, C is the number at the end. So let's plug these things in. Square root of b squared. Now b is 2, so b squared is 2 squared minus 4 times A is 1. And C is 15. So this is the square root of 4 minus 4 times 1 times 15 is 60, which gives me the square root of negative 56. And we said in class on multiple occasions that the square root of a negative is an imaginary number. It's the one thing that's not real. So the correct answer to C, or I'm sorry, to number 11 is C, imaginary. Now let's take a look at number 20. Solve by completing the square. Again, I'm going to go over this question now, but if it doesn't fully satisfy your understanding, go back and look at all of the questions we did in class. We must have done this a minimum of 7 or 8 times in class, plus the homeworks on top of that. N squared minus 14n. If you're going to complete the square, the first thing to notice is it's always half of this. Pretty much everybody wrote this down on their paper. But this is the part that you have to put into your head and you cannot forget about. This n squared minus 14n does not equal n minus 7 squared. The reason it does not equal n minus 7 squared is because n minus 7 squared, if I came out here to the side and I double distribute, I'm going to get n squared minus 14n plus 49. And the plus 49 is missing. Now I know it's plus 49 because if I take the negative 7 and I square it, that's how I always find this third part. It's plus 49. So in order to make this true, that indeed n squared minus 14n is going to equal this, I need to add the 49. But if I add 49 to the left, I need to add it to the right. So now, because I added the 49 on the left, I can say n squared minus 14n plus 49 is n minus 7 squared. And on the right side, I get 5 plus 49, which is 54. Now I'm going to take the square root of both sides, and I get n minus 7 equals plus or minus the square root of 54. And the last step I need to do is add 7 to both sides. Guys, I saw some people put the 7 in with the 54 and come out with 47. No. That's in a square root. We can't add square roots to whole numbers. The final answer is simply 7 plus or minus the square root of 54, and we're done. We have not yet worked on how to simplify that square root of 54. That'll be a lesson we do a little bit later in the year. And when we do that lesson, we'll come back to completing the square and come back to the quadratic formula for a day so that we can add in this final step. But if you had 7 plus or minus the square root of 54 on your paper, you got full credit. Okay. Now, you know, if you didn't understand number 20 as I just went through it, please go back and listen to it again and again and again if you need to, until it all makes sense. Remember, that's a topic that used to be done by seniors in high school. And now as part of the Common Core, it's been pushed down to your level. So I can understand struggling with it at first. But I should also tell you that I tutor a young man who has not had a strong history in math, but he's been able to get all of the completing the square questions right because it's very methodical. It's this step, then this step, then this step, then this step, and he's learned the order of the steps. And everyone in our class finds math easier than this young man does. So you should be able to get this right with the proper amount of effort. Okay, 21, solve using the quadratic formula. Oh, also, by the way, back to number 20 for a minute. Some people use the quadratic formula. No, 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 it said completing the square. When it tells you to solve using completing the square, you have to use completing the square. This one says use the quadratic formula, so that's what you have to do. I don't want to sound mean, but whether you like it or not, this is what you're expected to do. First off, a couple of people didn't even know the quadratic formula. I don't have any mercy on you, right? We talked about the need to know it. Should have done it. A is in front of the x squared, B is in front of the x, C is at the end. So x is equal to. Now B is negative 8. So what is the negative of negative 8? It's positive 8. Plus or minus the square root of. Now B is negative 8, so I have to square that. And this gets interesting. I'll talk more about that in a second. Minus 4 times 2 times 3 over 2 times 2. And that's going to equal, I'm going to come up here now, x equals 8 plus or minus the square root of. Now look, negative 8 squared. We have talked about this many, many, many times. This is what I mean about preparation. If you see a negative and you're going to square it in your calculator, you absolutely must put parentheses around that negative, or it will tell you negative 64. Remember this. If I want to do negative 8 times negative 8, I have to represent it in a package. This top one means, by order of operations, square the 8, then negate it. This is negative 64. The bottom one is positive 64. So as I looked at some of your scratch work, a lot of people put negative 64 in the beginning of their radical here. It's not, it's positive 64. You are, according to the formula, you are squaring the value of B. If the value of B is negative 8, you're going to square negative 8, which must be written with parentheses, which gives me positive 64. Minus, now 4 times 2, I'm over here, is 8 times 3 is 24, all over 2 times 2 is 4, so x equals 8 plus or minus the square root of 40 over 4. And for sure, haha, we could definitely simplify this further, but you haven't learned how to do it yet, so this was all I was looking for. And I specifically said to you before you took the test, stop here. Don't go any further, because I haven't taught you how to simplify radical 40 yet. It just doesn't fit. We're going to cover it a little bit later on and come back to this, just like we're completing the square. So some people went a step further and actually ended up costing themselves 2 points. All right, so this is, or the solutions to solving those two particular questions. Now we will get going on to the last section of the test that we have to do. I think it's the last section.